What we're talking about right here. Safety third.
That's about 5,000 RPMs, man. I was getting a little concerned. That's like shit. That's about things about to throw some rods and
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Time for an Hombre update. Got that core support just sitting in there. It's not bolted in, but I think it's looking pretty good. Almost like someone who knew what they were doing did this, and that didn't happen. Got a good 1.5 inches of space from pulleys to that fan, anywhere that'll come in contact, so I'm real happy with that. The manifold's just sitting on there, again, not bolted down. And the list of things that I have yet to do. Exhaust done. Still trying to track down a rear end. I've had some very sad tales in trying to track down an 8.5 out of a Blazer, and yeah, they are rare. It's like trying to find Bigfoot. If I can't find one of those, it's probably going to be an 8.8 out of an Explorer, but that will involve taking it to somebody and getting the rear end narrowed. I can't use the one that I've got back there for any kind of real power, the 7.5, and just one wheel getting power, and yeah, that's just not going to work for our purposes. Anyway, as always, much to do, but we've gotten a lot done. Good morning and welcome to December. It is cold, well, cold for Texas. As you can see, it is time to start thinking about exhaust. And I also got a steering shaft that I'm going to install. Of course, I should have waited to do a lot of other things before I did that. That's all right. This core support's not bolted in. I'm just gonna go ahead and pull that out and give me a little more room. I need to take out the old exhaust because most of it's just hanging in there. And look at these wheels that I put brand new tires on and then installed just to find out that they're not going to work. They're off of Bravada. The Bravadas were all-wheel drive, and the rear ends, of course, on the four-wheel drive vehicles are different. And yeah, look at that. Not so bueno. Anyway, so those are going to have to come back off. I will reinstall those tires on the old donut wheels. Things are marching along slowly. I'm going to start laying out the exhaust on this thing after I make sure that the engine is where it's going to stay. And I still may need to clearance the firewall for that right down there. Anyway, as always, much to do. All right, it is Christmas Eve, and I am stealing a few minutes away to work on the Hombre. Specifically, I'm having a problem with the steering. That shaft will not line up with that because of the exhaust manifolds over there. However, I believe in the mounts down there looks like some space where the whole engine can move over to the passenger side. So I'm going to work on that. It is very tight back in there, and I don't know how much further I can go over. Hammering more into the firewall is better than not being able to steer a car. So I will get after that. Merry Christmas Eve. Bring you up to date later on. Got the motor slid all the way over to the passenger side, as far over as it will go. Here is the steering shaft at its widest. You could probably slide a piece of paper in between there. So I may end up putting a dent in that manifold just to make super duper sure that it clears everywhere else. And I may have created Yet another issue back in there. But, you know, one issue at a time. All right, with the addition of BFH action, I was able to flatten that tube just a tad right there. And it looks like I've got about 1/8 of an inch, and that's at the thickest part of the shaft in that rotation. So we should be golden there. And now I will start working on this side and doing a little bit more bashing into the firewall back there to make sure I've got enough room to run exhaust. Merry day after Christmas. Coming out to the garage to play around a little. Now I've got to do some clearancing on the firewall in the back there. And of course there's a big motor and transmission in the way, so I can't get a good swing on a hammer. So, invention is mother. I've got this huge mutt here, and I'm going to use the end of that thing to try and hammer back that firewall to give me enough clearance for the exhaust. So that ought to be fun. We'll see how that goes. And I'm going to go ahead and call that effective. That worked well. I also did a little bit of grinding off the top of the A arm down there. You can't really see it, but the header, it wasn't touching, but it was close. Of course, the engine rocks that way. So, like I said, I wasn't going to worry about making anything pretty, but this battery box was rusted and was starting to eat holes, as you can see, through the pan. So, went ahead and took a little extra time and sanded it down reasonably well. And I'm going to throw some primer and some paint on it so that it doesn't rust completely through and drop a battery and do bad things under there. So I guess more of a safety thing than a make pretty thing, but I'm doing it. All right, I put the wiring harness just in the engine bay just to set it in there and figure out where everything is going to go. The wiring harness is from Current Performance. It is going to plug directly into the fuse block so that all the gauges on the inside work, and turn the key and it starts and all those kinds of things. My neighbor was nice enough to tune this computer for the setup that I'm going to be running CAM as well as the 4L80, so that is fantastic. Okay, day after Christmas, did make some good progress today. Got the wiring harness laid in and about half of it connected now. Pretty much routed to wherever it needs to go. Got the transmission pigtail back there. That was kind of difficult to get to fit in there, but it did. Actually had the manifold bolted down. Have decapped injectors, just stock truck injectors that were decapped and then cleaned and flowed. They flow around 75, 76 pounds and will more than meet my horsepower needs for this thing. I'm going to go ahead and bolt in the core support and bolt the fenders and everything to it again. Got to work on getting the battery tray back in there so I know where all those cables need to route. Had to order some ceramic boots for those spark plug wires, all of them clear except for that one right there, and there's no way that one's going to clear without hitting that tube and frying it. So had to bite the bullet and order some ceramic boot XL. I've also been looking at how a lot of people take care of their air cleaner and map sensor and where they route all of that. Of course, you can go left or right. I'm going to go ahead and put the washer tank back in here, but with an air cleaner sitting about here, I'm just afraid it's going to be drawing a lot of heat off those headers, sitting at idle and things like that. So that kind of concerns me. But we'll figure that out as we go. Mike and I. Spare parts garage, second week in January. Big brother came to visit, had a little car trouble. We got a late start on a Friday afternoon, but within an hour and a half's time, Mike buzzed out all the bolts underneath and got all the wiring done, and we lifted off the bed.
There you go. Now we've got access. So much more room for activities.
Well, that's where we're headed right there. We're gonna get all that fuel system out, redo it all, put a new pump in, and run new lines.
Out with the old, in with the new.
That's what it's all about. All right, it's Saturday morning. It is early. It is 52 degrees in the garage, which is colder than I like to work in.
Feels good, man.
It feels like something.
Feels good.
Yeah, all right. We just started just kind of blowing things off. We're not going to get too crazy about cleaning or painting or anything.
Frame is blown.
That's not what this project is about. But we are going to pull out the fuel pump cage in there and so start figuring out how we're going to modify it to accept the new pump. And that is going to take a little bit of fabrication on our end, so we'll see how that goes.
No hill for a stepper. We can do this.
Yeah. All right, we will see. All right, new fuel lines fitted, and we've got to go into a C5 style filter regulator, and that is what Mike is working on attaching the lines to on that end. And then there's one feed that comes all the way up to the rail. So we've gotten all of that hooked up. All right, this is going to be a hold my beer and watch this moment.
That's what we're talking about.
What we're talking about right here.
Safety third.
Just unhook the wire, the cable, and see if it'll idle. Oh yeah, you were way over. That's about 5,000 RPMs, man. I was getting a little concerned. I was like, shit, that's the bad thing about throw some rods and.
You want to hook this back up here? All right, I'm not sure that exactly sounded like success, but it is a runner. Makes good oil pressure. We of course have a belt squealing up front that we are going to have to figure out. Mike is pulling apart the exhaust. We're going to shut the garage door. It is after 5 o'clock. We've got barbecue on the smoker. So we are going to revel in our victory that we have a runner and call it a night. Car camp will resume tomorrow morning.